What 1 year without sex did to my body and mind, from week 1 to month 12. I didn't do it for religion or as some sort of social experiment. I went a full year without sex because I wanted to understand what really happens to the body, to the mind, and to the soul when you hit pause on something that most of us take for granted. What started as curiosity turned into a roller coaster of emotions, physical changes, and eye-opening realizations. From unexpected shrinkage to emotional numbness and even surprising sparks of healing, nothing could have prepared me for this. If you've ever wondered what abstinence really does over time, stay with me. This is the raw, real truth, week by week, month by month. Week 1, the shock to the system. I honestly didn't expect anything to change in just a week without sex. But surprisingly, my body reacted fast. I started feeling more restless and easily irritated. My libido actually spiked for a few days. It was like my body realized something was missing. I had random erections throughout the day and even more vivid dreams at night. My mind kept drifting toward sexual thoughts, even when I didn't want it to. It felt like I was detoxing from something I didn't know I was addicted to. Emotionally, I felt a bit on edge. I wasn't sad or anxious, but I definitely didn't feel normal. My brain felt like it was scanning for that regular dopamine hit it used to get. I noticed I was more sensitive to touch, even casual hugs or brushing up against someone. My energy was decent, but my focus wasn't sharp. The absence of that physical release left me feeling weirdly incomplete. It was just 1 week, but already, I knew this journey was going to be tougher than I thought. Month 1, mental resets begin. By the end of the first month, I started to settle into the idea of not having sex. The intense urges from the first week started to level out a bit. I wasn't constantly thinking about sex, but I did feel a sense of emptiness. My emotional connection to others started to fade slightly. It was like a layer of warmth was missing from my interactions. I still had nighttime erections and even a nocturnal emission, which reminded me my body was still working. But something inside was starting to feel distant. Mentally, I noticed I was more productive and less distracted, but I also felt a little emotionally flat. It was like the highs and lows were gone and I was stuck on neutral. I didn't feel depressed, but I didn't feel joyful either. My relationship started to feel more like a friendship than a romantic connection. I missed that physical closeness, even if I tried to ignore it. The first month wasn't unbearable, but it definitely came with silent consequences. Month 2, mood and energy fluctuations. During the second month, my mood started to bounce all over the place. One day I'd feel totally fine and even motivated. The next, I'd feel low energy and a bit sad for no clear reason. My libido dropped noticeably this month. I wasn't thinking about sex much anymore, which sounds like a good thing, but it also made me feel kind of numb. Erections became less frequent unless there was direct stimulation. My energy levels started to shift as well. I didn't feel as driven. My workouts felt flat, and my sleep wasn't as restful. Emotionally, I started feeling a little isolated. It wasn't just the lack of sex. It was the absence of emotional connection that came with it. I found myself pulling away from people, not wanting to be touched or hugged. Social interactions felt draining instead of refreshing. I think part of me didn't want to risk feeling anything that might lead to temptation. It was like my mind was protecting itself by shutting down part of me. But that also meant losing a part of what made life feel rich and full. Before we go any further, if this journey resonates with you even a little, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. We're on a mission to reach 100,000 subscribers this year, and your support truly means the world. Every click helps us share more real stories like this, and remind people that they're not alone in their silent battles. Drop a comment if you've ever gone through something similar or are thinking about it. Now let's continue, because month 3 brought a shift that really caught me off guard. Month 3, subtle warning signs. This month, my body started giving me quiet warnings. Morning erections were less frequent and weaker. I realized I hadn't had a spontaneous erection in days, which was unusual for me. My penis didn't feel as full in its resting state, not shrunken, just less present. It was subtle, but I could tell something was changing. My libido was way down, and I didn't respond to arousal cues like I used to. Even attractive thoughts or images didn't do much. I felt like my sexual self was going into hibernation. Mentally, I felt more disconnected than before. I didn't feel confident or assertive, more like I was just existing. My focus at work stayed sharp, but emotionally I was detached. I began avoiding romantic conversations and touch, even unintentionally. The absence of sex was now affecting how I saw myself as a man. I felt less driven, less grounded, and a bit lost. The changes weren't dramatic, but they were enough to shake me. Month 4, penile shrinkage begins. This is the month where I noticed something I hoped wouldn't happen. My penis started looking smaller. Not drastically, but it was definitely less full when flaccid. Erections were still happening, but didn't feel as strong. I even got curious enough to measure, and sure enough, I had lost about 5 to 10% in erect length. It hit me hard. I didn't expect that. I realized that without regular blood flow and stimulation, the tissue starts to weaken. The phrase, "use it or lose it," suddenly felt very real. Emotionally, I began spiraling a bit. I felt less masculine, less attractive, and more uncertain about my body. My confidence dipped, and I found myself avoiding mirrors. I was embarrassed, even though no one else could see it. But I could feel it, in my body, and even more in my mind. It made me rethink what healthy sexuality means, not just physically, but emotionally too. This was the first real red flag that abstinence wasn't just a pause, it was causing actual changes. You might think it's all mental, but let me tell you, the body doesn't lie. By month 4, the warning signs weren't just emotional anymore. This wasn't just a dry spell. It was a physical shift, one I could see and feel. The idea that what you don't use, you lose, suddenly felt painfully true. But here's the thing. This journey wasn't only about what I lost. It was about what I slowly started to rediscover. Keep watching because what came next nearly broke me, but also woke me up. Month 5, the low point. The 5th month was probably the hardest emotionally. I felt flat inside, like I was just moving through the days without much feeling. The shrinkage hadn't gotten worse, but it hadn't improved either. Erections needed more direct stimulation, and even then didn't feel as satisfying. I had almost no desire for sex. It was like my body turned off that part of me. I wasn't even fantasizing anymore, and that scared me a bit. It felt like I had lost a big part of who I was. Socially, I avoided deep conversations and romantic energy. I didn't want to flirt or even hug too long. I was protecting myself from intimacy because it just reminded me of what I was missing. I became more emotionally guarded, which affected my business and social relationship. I wasn't depressed, but I was definitely disconnected. I felt like I was slowly turning into a version of myself I didn't recognize. And I knew something had to change if I didn't want to stay that way. Month 6, discipline versus desire. At the halfway point, I had mastered the mental side of abstinence. I was focused, organized, and in control. But physically, the cost was showing. My penis still lacked the fullness it used to have, and my erections were inconsistent. I started doing pelvic floor exercises to try and regain tone and blood flow. I also added warm baths and stretching to improve circulation. These little habits helped, but it was clear that my body needed more than willpower. Emotionally, I missed connection more than I missed sex. I missed being touched, being desired, and feeling close to someone. My body wasn't screaming for release anymore. It was quietly asking to be seen, felt, and loved. I learned that sex isn't just about the act, it's about being vulnerable. Without it, I felt hardened in ways I didn't like. I wasn't suffering, but I wasn't thriving either. It made me wonder if I had taken intimacy for granted before. Month 7, stagnation sets in. Nothing got worse this month, but nothing got better either. It was like I had reached a plateau. Erections still needed effort, and arousal felt mechanical. My flaccid size stayed about the same, smaller than before, but stable. I kept up with my exercises and healthy habits, but it wasn't enough to fully reverse the changes. Emotionally, I felt like I was on autopilot. I was functioning fine, but the spark just wasn't there. I didn't feel much desire anymore. I wasn't excited by closeness or romantic situations. I had trained myself not to need it, and now it seemed like I couldn't want it even if I tried. That worried me. I didn't want to become numb forever. I wanted to find a balance between self-control and connection, but at this point, I didn't know how to get it back. Month 8. Subtle shifts and increased awareness. In month 8, something interesting happened. My senses became sharper. I noticed small things more: the sound of birds, the texture of fabric, the warmth of sunlight. It was like my brain was finding new ways to stay alert without sexual stimulation. Emotionally, I felt a bit more peaceful, though still distant from anything romantic. I wasn't craving sex, but I was starting to appreciate non-sexual beauty again. That felt like growth, even if it came with some sadness. I was slowly reconnecting to myself in a different way. Still, the physical issues hadn't gone away. Erections were slightly better thanks to my efforts, but not fully restored. My flaccid size hadn't changed much, still a little smaller than before. My body was functional, but it didn't feel vibrant. I was learning that sexuality isn't just a desire, it's a life force, an energy that affects everything. Even my creativity had been quieter without it. I missed feeling alive in that passionate, full-body way. Month 9, the first signs of recovery. By month 9, I started to see small improvements. Erections returned more naturally, not all the time, but more than before. Morning wood happened once or twice a week, which felt like a big win. I kept up with Kegels, warm baths, and even started doing light cardio to improve blood flow. My flaccid size looked a bit better, not fully back to normal, but no longer shrinking. I was starting to feel more like myself again. That gave me hope that this wasn't permanent. Emotionally, I felt lighter. I had moments of desire, brief but real. I wasn't rushing to end the journey, but I was open to reconnecting with that side of me again. I didn't feel shame or regret anymore, just curiosity about what the next phase of healing might look like. I started journaling, meditating, and exploring ways to reconnect with my body. The first spark of vitality had returned, and it felt good. Month 10. Mind-body disconnect. This month was emotionally tough again, but for a different reason. I started feeling like I didn't know who I was sexually anymore. I wasn't turned on easily, and even when I tried, it felt like a performance. Erections came and went, but arousal was disconnected from emotion. I felt like I was watching myself from the outside. The emotional intimacy that used to go hand in hand with physical desire just wasn't there. I missed the closeness more than the act. I wasn't sad. I was just numb. Like part of me had gone offline. I wasn't fantasizing, dreaming erotically, or even thinking much about attraction. I had trained myself so well not to crave it that I didn't know how to want it again. That realization scared me. I didn't want to be cold or distant forever. I knew I had to find a way to wake up that part of myself again. Gently, without pressure. Month 11. Rebuilding intimacy without sex. In month 11, I shifted my focus to non-sexual intimacy. I started giving myself permission to enjoy touch. Massages, warm blankets, skincare routines, even just lying in the sun. It helped me feel connected to my body without expecting anything from it. I began rebuilding a relationship with myself, not for sex, but for healing. Erections returned more naturally again, and my flaccid size was gradually improving. I felt more blood flow and more sensitivity. It felt like my body was waking up after a long nap. I wasn't rushing to have sex. I was learning to appreciate closeness in all its forms. I hugged people longer. I let myself cry during a movie without hiding it. I laughed more, smiled more, and looked people in the eyes again. I wasn't fully back to where I was before, but I was no longer numb. I felt more alive, and for the first time in a while, more hopeful. It showed me that intimacy can start with self-respect and kindness. Month 12, 1 year later. The truth. After 12 months without sex, I had learned more than I ever expected. Yes, my penis did shrink a little during the journey, about 5 to 10% in size and strength, but I was able to recover most of it. With consistent care, blood flow exercises, and emotional healing, I got back to a healthy place. But the real change was deeper than the physical. I had discovered how much sex is tied to identity, confidence, and emotional connection. It's not just about pleasure, it's about feeling seen, valued, and alive. Looking back, I don't regret the experience. It taught me discipline, but also revealed how easily we can disconnect from ourselves without even noticing. Abstinence isn't harmful if done with care, but complete disconnection from touch and intimacy can lead to numbness. I'd never shame anyone for choosing celibacy, but I'd tell them to stay connected to their emotional and physical self. Sex isn't everything, but it's not nothing either. It's part of being human, and now I appreciate that more than ever. If you made it to the end of this story, thank you, truly. This year-long journey taught me more about my body, mind, and emotions than I ever thought possible. If this video helped you reflect, feel seen, or just made you curious, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. We're working toward 100,000 subscribers this year, and we need your help to grow this honest human community. Share this with someone who might be silently wondering what a year without sex really feels like. They might need to hear this too.